All right, everybody, let's talk about Charlie Kirk. This is your boy Germ, Kinetic Aesthetic. I hope you all are having a good one. I'm pretty much just wanting to go and get some thoughts out about this because it is it's a giant topic, but there's a lot to talk about when it comes to Charlie Kirk and this whole situation. So, for those who are living under a rock who are unaware, Charlie Kirk was an American right wing media personality, podcaster. The video was unfortunately plastered all over social media. It's to the point right now where I was not able to open up Reddit the other day without involuntarily seeing it in just different angles, and it's all a little bit crazy. But yes, he was going and speaking in Utah the other day, and his last words were him talking about gang violence when he was asked a question about guns, and right after that, just loud bang, and it was absolutely gruesome. And I do want to say one thing before I actually talk about the bigger aspect of this, but I want to say I have serious thoughts and prayers to anybody that was at that rally, because it's one thing to just see the video and just see a man have a hole get popped in his neck and then just that amount of blood to be pouring out of it. It's another thing to just be there in person. That has to be horrifying. They had no idea where that shit came from. You don't know if that's a motherfucker next to you. I hope everybody that was actually at that event is able to get therapy, because that's traumatic. But above all that, I think the main thing that I want to get into, Charlie Kirk aside, there's a lot to be said about him and the things that he said and the things that he has, tried to really put out there in the media. And then just for him to go out the way he did, there is a lot of unfortunate irony in that. But I really do want to focus on how I just think that this whole reaction to it, and myself included, I'm not trying to just like come at this as a holier than thou type of position, but the reaction that we are starting to have when it comes to these big publicized murders by influential people or anybody that has really a prominent position in any type of media is getting a bit disturbing. As somebody who, when I first heard the news, when I first heard that he was shot, I just didn't feel sad. I didn't feel like that's fucked up. It was just like, damn, that's crazy. And I think that in itself is just something that's been like, the more I think about that, it's just like, damn, like that's like, is that really where we're at? Because I feel like, regardless of what side of the political lens that you land on, regardless of what ethnicity you are, I think we're just getting to a point where, especially in America, this violence is not something that phases us. And I don't know, there's so much to go into when it comes to that. There's so much to think about. But I'm to a point now where it's like, we just had the Minnesota politicians who were murdered in their homes. We just had the people who tried to break into Nancy Pelosi's house, and they assaulted her husband. We've got they tried to kill Trump twice. And then you have this happen. So it's just, the political violence on both sides is getting intensified, and it is getting to a point where, unfortunately, it isn't just a thing where anymore where you can say we just have, and I'm just going to throw this fact out there. And I know this is going to be a bit of a tangent, but I just want to make sure I get this out because my thoughts are all over the place on this. But I've been seeing a lot of takes that when political violence is initiated, a lot of people that try to just strictly blame one side, that strictly try to blame the left. And I do want to make it clear, and I want to just read this off from the Department of Justice. This is from our government. I'm going to read this off. This is about domestic terrorism. Militant, nationalistic, white supremacist violence has increased in the United States. In fact, the number of far-right attacks continues to outpace all other types of terrorism and domestic violence extremism. Since 1990, far-right extremists have committed far more ideologically motivated homicides than far-left or radical Islamist extremists, including 227 events that took more than 520 lives. In that same time period, far left extremists committed 42 ideologically motivated attacks that took 70. I'm going to leave this link that I'm reading off. This is from the Department of Justice. This is a United States government website. I will leave this for you all to read, but I just want to make that clear that this is still a one-sided thing. I think that the problem is that we are getting to a point where everybody is getting so fucking desensitized that both sides are just going to start retaliating, which is the worst possible thing. I think people are, unfortunately, I literally just saw a Facebook post where somebody, all they put was, they want us to be divided. They want us to hate each other. Don't let them win. And a lot of comments from people on both sides of the aisles who made it clear where they were standing are just saying it's too late for that. And I just want to say, if we're at that point, then the country has failed. And I don't believe, and I'm not going to believe that. I just can't. I don't know where we go from here. I don't know how we get things to a less tense position, but we have to do something because it's getting to a point where I just don't feel like we are going to be stable. And we're already basically not stable, but I keep liking to think that, it's going to be hard for things to get worse. And then somehow I just feel like things inch towards it. And I don't know how we do that. I'm still going to have to think on that, but I think we need to really slow down. We need to slow down. We need to understand how we got to this point. I think the rhetoric, anybody that is like using any type of political violence in their rhetoric, we do need to start really analyzing that, and we really need to start paying attention to that, and we need to start diffusing and calming that down, because this isn't going to be good. Anybody that thinks that this was just an overall good thing for America or for the world, you are wrong. All this is going to do is radicalize a whole bunch of other people and just create more shit in the future. Big picture, this shit is going to create problems and going to create motherfuckers that we have to deal with 20 years from now, 30. And that is the thing that scares me. So I'm going to have to come back to this. I'm going to have to say more on it. I just wanted to go out and just say a couple of things about that. Like, I wanted to diffuse a couple of very bad narratives that I've seen the worst people you can think of trying to use to position and pivot this to one side. My food is done. I think we as a country just need to find a way. Maybe this was just me looking back as a kid and just being an ignorant kid and not realizing how things really were. But I remember, and it's fucked up that I have to talk about us after a terrorist attack, but I remember after 9/11, that was one of the few and last times that I felt like everybody was sort of united. Even if it was for a fucked up reason, we were all sort of on the same page and we were all sort of on that same thing. And maybe we need aliens to come back. And I'm not saying that as a joke, because we need something to unite us against something, because it feels like we are fundamentally broken. It feels like there's a lot of people who are just completely done in trying to understand or just remember that the other side is human and not just lizard people. And it's actually scary. It's actually a little scary when you think about it, because I didn't think it would be like this when I was young. But I will end off by saying, don't let this be anything that scares you. The world is not about to end overnight. Rome is not about to fall, not yet. I still think we're a long ways away from a lot of the doomsday predictions that people like to spout out. I think we just do need to really start to see things for what they are and be prepared. Anybody that is upset about this man's death, I will say I hate that you feel that way. I hate that you lost somebody that you cared about. I will say rest in peace to his family, rest in peace to his kids. And that's the one other thing that I want to make sure I speak about. It's one thing to just sit there and just be like, you know what, I don't care. I'm not going to say anything. I'm not going to leave a comment. It is another when you are actively cheering it on, when you are actively just finding ways to create jokes. And I only say that because I can't imagine being this man's kids. That's the part that I kept thinking about yesterday. Like, after I got done, and again, I'm going to be honest with you, before he was dead and it was just a shooting, I was like, it's fucking ironic. It is ironic that a guy that says some of the things that he had said would have that happen to him. But the more you think about it, and when you actually have somebody die over this shit, it's just like, do you really just want to ever just be in the position of that man's son or daughter and getting on the internet and just saying that basically a good portion of the internet is just happy? And I say that to people who are on both sides of the spectrum, because I gotta bring up George Floyd. That's one thing that's always sat with me, that I still remember, that I always think about. The pictures of motherfuckers going as George Floyd for Halloween, the pictures of people that were dressed as a cop with another motherfucker with handcuffs, with them sitting with them on their neck. Is it funny? Is it funny now? Is it funny to anybody? Somebody being dead? Are we actually going to try to hold ourselves to a higher standard than gang members when we're at a point now where we're mocking dead people on the other side? Like, that is shit that I literally see teenagers do in Chicago. And yet we're at a point where we have grown ass adults doing it on both sides. We have got to somehow overcome this desensitization to death that we have. I apologize. That was a butchering of that word. But that is going to be the death of us. Not respecting the dead is going to be the death of us in our whole society. Because if we can't do that, we're not going to ever be able to get past any type of differences, especially if they're just political ones. If we're able to take political differences to a point, and I'm talking about political. I'm not talking about people who are just spouting racist shit. And I'm not going to go any further on that. But if we're not able to get to that point, then we are doomed. And that's all I really think I can say about this for right now. I definitely am going to have to release something to follow up to get more on the Charlie Kirk himself, because he leaves behind a complicated legacy. But at the end of the day, the man was a father. He was a son. Shit, he was a Cubs and a Bears fan. The guy was from Illinois, so it's like I had something in common with this nigga. Shit, he'd probably hate. And the crazy thing about it is all the people who are so offended at the jokes, who are so mad at anybody that's ridiculing this, Charlie Kirk was the type of person who believed in free speech above all else. He loved that South Park made fun of him. So there's a lot to talk about when it comes to just this whole situation and what it's and where the reactions and what all of it says about us. But I just want people to just remember that just be good people in real life. Treat anybody you see with the basic respect. If you ain't got nothing nice to say to somebody, leave them the fuck alone. And just leave it at that. And this is Kinetic Aesthetic. I'm your host, Germ, and just continue trying to be good people.